Welcome to a Brighter Day podcast with your host, Beverly Knox Davis, recorded at the Brighter Day Hub in Historic Hoskins. This podcast shares stories of empowerment, resilience, and growth. At a Brighter Day Outreach, our vision is to create a thriving community where every youth, senior, and family in the Thomasboro, Hoskins, and Charlotte areas has secure placement and the potential to grow. Join us as we shine a light on the people and initiatives making brighter days a reality.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in again today for another episode of the A Brighter Day podcast. My name is Beverly Knox Davis, and I am the founder and president for A Brighter Day Outreach and so much more. But today we have a wonderful special guest with us. His name is Chris Smalls, and we're going to jump right into that in just a moment. But again, thank you for being with us on today. So, Chris.
Hello.
I'm so excited to have you here because you're the face for a big piece of heritage here in the Hoskins community. So please tell us all about who Chris Smalls actually is.
Well, firstly, thank you for having me. Thank you for the invite.
Absolutely.
I'm really passionate about our community, and so I'm happy to share about, the corner that I'm kind of operating in. But yes, I'm Chris Smalls. I'm the president and property manager of FoxRidge Lofts, but as we love to call it endearingly here in Hoskins Mill, Historic Hoskins Mill.
AKA, y'all.
Yeah. Hopefully one day we'll revert it back to Hoskins Mill as we should, because we want to highlight the history. Beyond what I do at the mill, I'm an artist. I'm from Beaufort, South Carolina. The Low Country, Gullah Geechee heritage. So my whole family is about heritage and culture. And so I love to be in a historic community here in Hoskins because it's just an extension of the things that I like to support.
Absolutely. And he's done a lot of footage for us. You filmed the parade and festival last year. And you did all of our headshots So if you go to our website at www.abrighterdayoutreach.org, you will see the headshots done by Chris Smalls. And what's the name of your photography business?
Well, my artist name is Sancho Smalls, which is actually my fourth great grandfather's name. My mom works in history, art, and culture. And we found our ancestor named Sancho Smalls, who was born in Africa. And, for us African Americans, it's a big deal to have found an ancestor born in Africa and be able to trace that back. So I use that name with pride because everybody's name is Chris these days. And so for SEO sake and, promoting my business as an artist and photographer, I go by Sancho Smalls.
Oh, awesome. Well, tell us more about how long have you lived at the mill and what brought you there? I would like to know the journey.
Yeah, so I went to Winthrop University in Rock Hill, so right outside of Charlotte, and then I moved to Charlotte in 2015. Okay. I lived on the south side of Charlotte for many years, worked on the south side, and then during the pandemic, I moved in with my grandmother was like, move in, jobs are shaky right now, finances are shaky, come huddle down over here. And while I was there, I paid off all my debt. And my grandmother was like, what's your credit score? And I was like, I told her, and she was like, oh, well, you need to find a home. Okay. I was like, grandmother, I'm
good right here, grandma.
I don't know anything about that. But thankfully, the stars kind of aligned, and my aunt and uncle who are building their home was also staying there, and she was a realtor. Okay. And one of the first properties they found was Hoskins Mill. And we came in the night, and I'm looking around, and everything was so dark. But I just fell in love with the building. And then when I visited again, in the daytime, I saw that this was a historic community, in a community that hadn't been too heavily touched by gentrification and revitalization, or however we want to term
today.
Yes. And there was something very endearing about a minority community that is still standing and still thriving with their with their neighborhood. So once I saw the historic building, the exposed brick, and all the elements of the mill that people love, I was sold immediately. And so I did everything I could to make sure that I was able to purchase. So that was in 2021.
Okay.
And I've been there ever since, and I don't plan on leaving anytime soon, and I don't plan on probably ever selling it. I always want to have a piece of Hoskins with me and be able to contribute to this neighborhood, whether I actually live here or not. Yeah.
So I know when the Historic Hoskins Coalition Group began our efforts to just determine the heritage of the area, the mill, Hoskins Mill, was a forefront with tons of rich heritage. Because I grew up in this area, I knew it way back when, watching people pack their lunches and walk to work, and when it was a textile mill. Tell us about some of the history that's still rich on the inside, because this isn't just a building that got gutted and put up, all these
Yeah.
nice new finishes. There is a lot of really rich heritage that you can still see.
Yes, definitely. So Hoskins Mill finished being built in 1904. And yes, it was a textile mill, and around in the community, you still see a lot of the mill homes where the workers worked, and a few of those have also been deemed and protected historical as well. But the mill is so gorgeous. Of course, there's it's the wood that really speaks to me. I mean, you can't harvest wood. They don't harvest wood, and there isn't wood available to harvest like some of the wood that you see in the mill. They're tallish trees, solid beams that are holding this building together. And we always joke with all the things that we're currently working on and contending with financially in the mill. It's beautiful and strong bones that are keeping that building up. So just the feat of architecture from 1904, that this building is still standing strong, is history within itself. When you think about the textile mill and the industry and how important that industry was to building communities in cities like Charlotte, Hoskins Mill, I believe, was one of the 6 original mills here in Charlotte. And through some of my research, you can actually, in our parking lot, in some of the neighboring properties, you can actually see this. It's about a 4-foot brick wall that surrounds some of the homes neighboring us, and that was the steam reservoir that powered the mill. Which is, so there's signs and clues of the history all around the mill. Just the brick, you can see. At some point, the workers of the mill would carve their names and date into the brick. So there's a lot of different hidey holes where people would mark their place and mark their interaction with the mill. And some people say we have ghosts. I haven't seen ghosts, but I mean, if I did, I would welcome them at this
really
point.
nice to the
Because
ghosts.
be really nice to the ghosts. But and then through some of my research and still confirming some of this as we try to find funding and storytell about the mill, because that is so important when you're trying to gather funds and gather support, and resources is the word I'm always using. You have to find that history. So I was doing some digging, and from what I can tell, Hoskins Mill was one of the first mills to hire minority workers, Black and brown employees. And although they weren't working the same jobs, and probably not even in the same places, from the documentation I found, they would provide equal housing. So the mill homes were also provided to the Black workers, the African American workers of the mill, and they were able to earn a living here, which is definitely a step in the journey of Blacks in Charlotte.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is awesome. I know the first time I visited on the inside, I couldn't get to my destination to get my headshot or to work with the others that were getting a headshot done. I couldn't, because I was just in awe of everything all around, the structure and the way that the preservation has taken place. I have an appreciation for that. And I know right now you all are working with the placemaking grant to bring some of that heritage on the outside. So
Yeah.
tell us about that project.
Yeah, so we secured a placemaking grant, and the project they approved was a fence mural. So we're working with the artists now to really narrow down the imagery because really, from the inside of the mill, we aren't really going to be the ones engaging with it the most. It's really for the community to storytell about the community. And so we really want to make sure that imagery is speaking to the name, the history, however we can for this community. Because we have to put a stamp on it. That's how you protect communities like ours.
Absolutely. So, and that was part of what we did when we did the mobile mural, which is right across the street at 101 South Hoskins Road in the big field, was to ensure that we included everything from the community. So we've had like a baseball team. There's like a big textile rotary thing that's on the mural as well. And so just making sure that we dig deep to ensure that we capture every piece of the community. There's a young girl there because there was a lot of families. But even when I moved to the community, there were few African American families, and then all of a sudden, it just flipped, and all of a sudden we now have more African American families, and all of the white families moved out. And what I noticed over the years was that our neighborhood doesn't look like other neighborhoods. I see they have an entryway that tells you this is where you are. We don't have that in Hoskins, so I always had to use places like, oh, well, you go past the mill to the first railroad track, make a right, and I just thought that was always just not good.
Yeah.
There has been signage at the mill, but I know you all would love to have something beautiful there too. So tell us about some of the other projects that you all are working on to beautify and preserve the mill.
Yeah, so the mill was acquired by the city in the 80s, and it was, I believe, elderly housing and then low income housing, and then later acquired by our developer. Unfortunately, we have inherited a lot of poor maintenance, long term maintenance, and really planning to preserve such a building as the mill. So I've been on the board of the mill since August of 23, and it's really been my job learning all of the things that we are currently contending with, our HVAC, our roof, the windows. There's a lot of things that specifically that deal with sustainability. So air quality, energy saving, and all of those things that we're working to preserve those things, because right now it's a residential building. So we have to make sure that people who reside in the building have adequate level of residents.
Right.
And that's one of the main ways that you preserve a landmark like ours is whatever the current use is, making sure that it's serving that use to the best of its ability. So we're working on that, and along the way of those bigger capital projects, as we'll look for funds and investors and grants and all of the things. Of course, we're doing small projects not only to beautify but also to strengthen our community. One of the biggest things that I've been working on is, number one, communication, increasing the level of communication within our property, but also exterior to our property, making sure that at least myself, I'm stepping out into the community as much as possible to engage, to know that we're not just isolated in the mill. We are part of the greater Historic Hoskins community. So a few of the smaller projects, we're working with some people who want to help with like native plants and native gardens. We have some invasive bamboo on the property that we want to clear, and just
Bamboo.
I don't know how the bamboo got there, but bamboo is very invasive
Yes,
to
it
our
is.
ecosystem
Wow.
here, and so that's one of the first things I want to get rid of. And also, it's a place to hide. Safety in our community is very important.
Yes.
I do take pride in, because our area is gated in around the mill, that CMPD tells us that the percentages of crime actually significantly drops within our community, within our immediate community, which is good, but also is also speaking to the work and the support that we need in a wider community. I mean, we just had our monthly coalition meeting for the neighborhood, and we saw the statistics for, I guess, the past month or past month or quarter?
It was actually a yearly report.
Okay.
So I did clarify that with CMPD Officer Garcia this morning, and he said, "Well, shift to that third or fourth attachment, and our numbers are way down."
Okay, very
So I was
good.
like, "Okay, nobody caught that it was an annual report,
Got you.
but it says volumes that we've all come together, including the mill and all of the surrounding neighborhoods, to bring our numbers down so significantly." So I plan to share that out with everybody today.
Good.
It's
Well,
it's
that's
a
good
wonderful
news.
thing. Yeah,
That's good news
absolutely. We
because
were
we were a
all
bit
alarmed.
we were startled by those numbers, and so that takes me to the bamboo. That's one of the areas that's filled with junk. We have a a significant unhoused population in our neighborhood that we're trying to navigate and see what the city's plan is and how so many people are being displaced here, or and we want them to have resources as well. And we understand that there's a lot of politics and a lot of nuance when it comes to dealing with those people. But we want to make sure that we're also promoting safety for everyone, because a safe community, whether we have unhoused people or not, we want it to be safe for them as well.
Absolutely. I agree.
Until that issue is addressed properly. So
And
clearing out
that's
the
a
bamboo.
problem.
It is a problem.
That is a serious
It's a
problem.
problem.
That's something that I've spoken with our city leadership on in regards to some of the feedback. I've had conversations with some of the homeless that have just, showed up in
Yeah.
Hoskins, and I was like, "How did you get here?" And some have mentioned that they were simply dropped off. And I said, "Who dropped you off?" And then there's the silence. They don't
Yeah.
want to get in trouble, or they don't want to say, thinking that something may happen to them or something like that. But that population has grown significantly. Just right down the street in the park, we just had a fire in the park, and so many homeless living in the woods
Yeah.
by the community garden. And I'm sure you probably have a ton of
In the
issues with them
bamboo.
in the bamboo.
That's why, yeah, there's chairs and all, kinds of stuff. So we want to make sure that, of course, our community is safe, but we also, whenever there is somebody transiently walking through our sector of the neighborhood, I try to remind them, like, hey, especially late at night, single parent moms, females, try not to approach them, because they're not going to want to assist or give you money or food or anything if they're scared. And if they're scared, that puts you at a risk, puts them at a risk. And the last thing we want is for anybody to be injured, hurt, or be afraid in the place that they live. But it's a very sensitive and nuanced, topic that needs, support from the city to address.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I do have an appreciation for that. One thing that the coalition is very appreciative of is our pioneer signage that you all gave permission for us to put right there, so that it's in a visible place. It's not tucked away. Very important. So just a little bit of background there. There were several residents at the time between Hoskins and Thomasboro that all came together with the city of Charlotte to provide feedback on changes that needed to happen in Hoskins and in the Thomasboro area. And that was back in 2001. You know what year we're in? That was a lot of years ago, and it got tabled. Many of the things that are listed, it had to do with the mill, it had to do with the railroad track and the roads, and making sure that there are beautification projects and various things, and a very hefty report. And it saddened me when I found out that they had spent so much time putting this report together to beautify the entire community, and nothing ever happened. So I wanted to just stop for a moment and say thank you to those that did put the work in way back when. And we've simply picked that report up, and we're working from it right now. I know that's some of the things that you're doing at Hoskins Mill, or FoxRidge Lofts and Condominiums. And then also, with the coalition and A Brighter Day, also doing things throughout the community. So thank you so much for just pressing that to allow us to list every single person on that beautiful monument. So if you want to check it out, it's on Gossett Avenue. But what's the address for the mill?
The mill is at 201 South Hoskins
South
Road. Yep.
Hoskins Road. So it's that intersection, but as soon as you turn off of South Hoskins, right there at the mill, it's right there on the edge, so you can see all of those that contributed over the years. So we're very grateful for that.
Yes. New landscape, new landscaping pending around that sign.
Pending.
But we're looking for some beautiful native plants that hopefully we don't have to maintain too much, that maintain
Yeah,
themselves, because
we
we have
want
so many things going on. But it's an honor to have that sign, and to even for you to even consider including some of the current people who are doing the work, including myself. That was very kind, because I wouldn't say that, at least in our building, the mill, that is thankless, the work that I do, because I do get a lot of thank yous, but it is hard work. There's 89 units in the mill, and I know how much work you do, um, with a whole neighborhood and multiple homes, but dealing with neighbors who can hear each other's noise and
Yes. Oh
interact with
my
each other
goodness.
is a different type of
Yes, it
different
is.
type of thing. And so, but I've been super intentional about trying to get out of the mill and making sure that I'm trying to inspire other people to get out of the mill and help the wider community, because we're all a community together.
Absolutely.
We're a family until somebody decides to move out, and I don't plan to move out. So I want to get along with everybody.
I know that's right.
Yeah.
It makes life a lot easier, right? When we
Yeah.
all can
Yep.
just get along.
Yep.
So just super excited about all of it. And then those that you mentioned, we call them our torch carriers. And just excited to have those that are still very active. You have some rich heritage in people inside of the mill that you constantly can reach out to get information. So I'm excited to see what the placemaking grant project will turn out to be. I know it will be beautiful. I know you're looking at different artists and things like that right now. So again, just super excited about that. Anything else that you would like to share with us in regards to, everything going on at the mill, or your funding efforts right now? Anything
Yeah.
at all?
Sorry, I'm vibrating over here. Excuse me. Yes, I mean we're fundraising for. We're looking for any resource available for the mill, because I believe improvement all starts with the people in the community, and with a building being mismanaged or poorly managed over the years, people lose faith in the community, and they are less likely to contribute to its growth and its improvement. And so, whether it's making sure that I'm engaging with Carolina Farm Trust and their food stands and sharing their information with our building, because that's a beautiful resource that we have now in the community. I'm excited to see what else they bring, or partnering with nonprofits like Park CDC, who are planning and working with us to find programming about financial literacy, nutrition, different things, to just provide opportunities for us to become a stronger community in the mill, and also extend some of these resources out to the wider community. We're looking, as I mentioned, into sustainability, because there's a lot of money nationally in sustainability and reducing energy consumption. So one of the really lofty goals that we currently have, we have, these big flat roofs at the mill. So we would love to have a green roof and convert that into a butterfly highway, which will help insulate the building, which will slow down water movement in terms of, runoff and all of that stuff. And also just be a beautiful addition to such a beautiful building, and bring an extra element to our environment around the mill, and get some pollinators around, because we know we need more bees and pollinators and butterflies. If you don't know,
That's right.
you know now.
Know that.
And so a lot of different projects in terms of beautification and landscaping, and just making it known that we are invested, and we are investing time and energy to making our building something to be proud of, because I do believe it's the heart of our neighborhood and our wider community,
Absolutely.
and we want that heart to be pumping strong for everyone
Absolutely.
else.
Yes.
Yeah.
So is there a website, anywhere that people can go to get more
So
information?
we don't currently have a website, but that is a goal for the end of the year, to get like a public facing website. We do have an Instagram that we started last year. I'm sure we'll share this podcast there, but it's Historic Hoskins Mill on Instagram. And so really that's a outward facing Instagram page, where I want to show some of the community, how we're engaging in upcoming events and stuff like that, so people can really understand and get to know this part of Historic Hoskins.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent. Well, thank you so much for being
Thank
with us
you.
today. It has been a pleasure, and always where we can share about our heritage of the community that we love so much, which is Historic Hoskins. You know, we get the question a lot, why do we call it Historic Hoskins? Well, we have pieces of heritage and things that have already been documented and stamped as being historic. So what? We are historic. We are the Historic Hoskins Community. So thank you so much for all of that information today. And again, if you'd like to know more about our podcast or anything else that we have going on here at A Brighter Day, please visit our website at www.abrighterdayoutreach.org. And of course, this podcast is on all platforms on social media, that being iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, as well as IG, Facebook. So just look for us. All right. Thank you all so much. And please tune in for our next episode that will be in a couple of weeks. Thank you again as I sign off for today as Beverly Knox Davis, founder and president for A Brighter Day Outreach.
Thank you for tuning in to A Brighter Day podcast with Beverly Knox Davis. Together, we're working toward a community where everyone has the opportunity to grow and thrive. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and join us next time as we continue to inspire brighter days for all. See you soon.